Hey guys, welcome back. It's the Drink Salon. You tuned in to a wolf's howl, or just a howl, I think is what I call them. Mostly these were, if for those of you who hadn't seen them in a while, these were kind of TED Talks in a way. Sometimes they were little shorts about, stick-to-itiveness, realizing that, you're going to get... I just didn't know where my phone was for a second. Anyway, just little things. And I wanted to talk to you about working with the older and younger generation. Especially when you've been in, easy U-turn. Especially when you've been in that environment for a long time. Specifically, if you're in the service industry, or really any type of people-oriented industry, when new people come in, they have to learn the job, right? And sometimes the job trains specifically. Like you sit down in the room, person goes over stuff with you, they have the training sessions, but sometimes it's kind of stick you in a fire kind of thing, and sometimes you follow along, and it depends on the type of work related. Sometimes, like I said, with like call centers and stuff like that, which isn't a service, kind of servicing, but not service, support industry, whatever. But there's always a type of training, and it differs. The thing that I've found about service industry is that a lot of times there's a bit of horseplay, some jackassery, usually like pranks, and it's all in good humor. But you do occasionally get people who are irritated about something, and then the new guy will come in, and it just sets them off, and a lot of people feel that when, especially with the newer generation, if you're trying to fix that problem of the jackassery and not treat people like tools, it's considered coddling. I had to deal with it, you got to deal with it, Want to be a big boy, pull up your big boy pants. Yeah. In a sense, sometimes that's true, because one, as a service industry guy, you are going to have to deal with some customers that are just straight up. You're going to be inundated with shitty people, and you have to deal with them properly. You just can't blow off the handle and just start throwing hands. Can't do that. Same thing goes for coworkers. There has to be a process for handling how you deal with a negative coworker, because guess what? You throw hands, you're probably going to jail. It's not like the old folks talk about the way it used to be, I'm not saying things aren't as lenient as they used to be, but it's like I remember old guys talking about how they were pulled over to the side of the road by the sheriff, and the sheriff would pull them over going, "You so and so, son? What are you doing up this late, son?" Something like that. And it's not like that anymore. Now, a lot of police departments, especially small in towns, will try to be a bit more integrated so that people know that hey, yeah, I live in your area. What's going on? I heard that sound last night. Somebody called this morning, said dispatch, so I'm out here. That kind of thing. There does have to be a community effort, and I think that's the same thing that needs to go on in service work industries. It needs to be a community effort to kind of bring people in. You can't have you have to have fun to a certain extent. You have to enjoy your work, and interpersonal communication between coworkers got to be a thing. But I've seen some people who have just talked down to their more senior employees. More junior employees. And that instinct obviously kicks back some like juniors will kick back, like right back, because they've dealt with the brother thing, or the sister thing, or like they got the bigger or younger brother and sister, and they've had to deal with that shit, But that's how they learn to deal with it, is family. And some people don't deal with things the same way. It's like some families you have, let's just sit down and have a talk. Sometimes you open the door in your sister's room and she tosses something at you. You can't do that at work. Basically, there's situations in especially companies where you have people that are like, you know what, I'm leaving, and it's because of, it's like, hey, I got a better job, and the bosses always be, but not bosses, sometimes managers will be like, hey, is there anything I can do to keep you on? And people are like, I'm gonna go work for this place, and it's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I can't compete with that, especially when it's mom and pops. But even larger corporations can, like you have a job, it's like, hey, I'm going to work for a Fortune 500 company, and they're like, oh no, dude, you're doing cashier work here. Yeah, good luck, man. And in the whole 2-week thing, you have to realize that's not law. There's no road. It's a consideration. But when you think about it this way, a company doesn't have to give you 2 weeks notice, but you are considered. It's considered good if you want to get rehired at the company you're leaving, if you give them 2 weeks notice. They're still there. They're still hiring people. So you have to kind of coordinate that concept of, if the job that you're hired in hired you fairly simple and you got on fairly well, give them that 2 weeks notice. If they've been nothing but jerks to you, you don't have to. Now, coming back, if you decided you had to come back to that company, you might want to be careful. But if you are absolutely sure there's no way you'd be coming back to that business, you don't have to. I'm not saying don't. Very good possibilities to work out so that you work through your pay period and then leave. Now if you got a job that's hiring like immediately, you might talk to your boss and be like, hey, yeah, I gotta start work training day after tomorrow. And you have decent enough bosses, they'll understand. Now, us older dudes, when we're dealing with the younger generation, if you compare them to anyone else, and that other person, like if they do something stupid, like they use a Phillips head for a flathead, or if they don't know the difference between a Phillips and a flathead, for example, I'll make fun of them. I mean, you can pick and play is fine, but if you say something that is basically just rude, you're talking down to them and making them, I don't know, feel like they're subpar in the human department, don't do that. Everybody can piss each other off. We can all kind of make each other mad. Sometimes a new guy can do something on a job that will piss off an employer, a customer, and as the senior tech on the site, you get the chewing out, not only from the customer, but sometimes your boss. And is it writing, and of course saying, hey, it was the younger dude. That's part of your job as the manager. Be like, hey, this is what happened. So and so did this. I was over here. It's a combined issue. If somebody underneath you fucks up, you're responsible. To an extent, anyway. Not to a full extent, but to an extent. So, giving the young one a hard time, especially if your boss is not going to be the one to do it, you've got to be the manager, and take the complaint from the boss, and you got to complain to the new guy. Make it an educational situation. Don't make it personal, because them fucking up wasn't personal unless you find out it was. I'm just saying. And also try this just in the beginning. Work on that if you can, but it's gonna be hard, because a lot of people are gonna take stuff like that a little personally when they're the ones that got chewed out. It's part of the job, but it's part of the responsibility of the job. It's not like something that you have to, like, you weren't trained for it. You know, it's not something that you have to take. It's like, that's my job to deal in a sense, but it's also like something that you have to deal with, and a positive response helps. Now, I am notoriously bad for this when people come at me with a negative attitude, or I fuck up or whatever. Because one time recently, I was working on something and we were just stacked, and I told this guy, he works for the county, really, really good guy. I like this guy a lot, actually. He came in, dropped something off, and I told him to come back a little bit later. And I was going to train one of my new guys on it because it's something he hadn't done yet. New guy, we got swamped. And it was like 2 or 3 hours later, he came in, and we're still swamped. I was like, yeah, man, haven't gotten to it yet. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, man. We've just been, and I'm still trying to see if I can get to it. You know, it's just sitting there, and just as we coming through, he's like, all right. And he turned around and he left. And I thought he was mad. I was like, fuck, you know, and I busted ass and got with my new guy, and we did a whole bunch of stuff. And the new guy was supposed to try to work on those locks. He never touched them. Why? Because we were busy. He was floating around doing different things, trying to plug in holes while the whole ship was going down. Didn't go down, but you know what I mean? So yeah, but he was helping out, but like, it was his job to do work on the lock, and he never got a chance to do it. I never got a chance to push him to do it, or took over to do it. So finally got everything cleared, did it, called the guy, he came back, and I was like, man, sorry, hopefully I didn't piss you off. And he was like, oh no, man, I mean, yeah, you look like you're really busy. And it was just like, it's not a hard job to do, and it shouldn't take too long. Like, once I got to it, it took me like 15 minutes, but man, it was a pain. But yeah, I mean, and I didn't belittle the new guy. I kind of went over him with what I did. One of the guys was working on another lock, one of the other new guys, and he totally fucked up that thing. And it was the customer's lock, so we had to find a replacement. But I ribbed him a little bit on it, but only in joking. We both laughed, and I was like, hey, look, I'm just kidding. You know, but like, yeah, no, that happens, and now you'll know not to do that again. I'm like, what are you going to do next time? And he's like, I'm going to do this. And I was like, yeah. So you just have to be careful. Make accidents or problems training situations. And if you do get angry, you know, if you do pop off with a rude remark or whatever, just come back later and be like, hey, good work today. Sorry about the, you know, that, just, you know, how we got really busy. But then again, you're going to come across newbies and older technicians who are senior than you. They're going to be assholes, and you have to decide if you guys can work with each other. If not, time to go, you know, maybe it's just not for you. But yeah. And if you have your complaints, make your complaints. Do what you got to do. But don't work in a place that doesn't appreciate you and doesn't treat you like a human being. But man, find a job that you can enjoy, earn that money, pay those bills, eat well, drink well. Okay? All right. Anyway, this has been a Howl, and I'll talk to you guys later. As always, I answer drinks a lot, and I'm wishing you health, wealth, and love, with the time and gusto to enjoy it all, down to the last howl. Peace out.